So happy Saturday, everyone. Onkar, would you do the overview? Onkar, you there? Anyway, all right. So happy Saturday, everyone, and glad that we are here in Satsang today. Um, so today, I actually wanted to talk about service. And so Guru Maharaj, I mean, like a lot of other subjects, in his 7 volume, 8 chapter book, there is. Um, so, Onkar, can you unmute now? Um, Yuan, could you unmute Onkar? Okay, maybe we can do that afterwards. Um, so, um, in his chapter on devotion and service, I think one of the things that kind of rings in my head is like his statement that the best way to help yourself is to help others. Helping others is the best way to help yourself. So, um, and that actually, I go back to it again and again. It's something that, you know, I think we might have heard, we might have thought about, but like really understanding and implementing it, um, we as a collective continue to go towards the other end of it. Um, so helping others is the best way to help yourself. The inner happiness and inner satisfaction um, that a simple, kind act provides is beyond any other activity that you can do to be peaceful, including many religious, spiritual, self-care endeavors, including meditation. So satsang always had service of others as an integral part. According to Dada Guru Maharaj, Lalaji Maharaj, Guru Maharaj's Guru, this satsang helps you to become a better human being. And and I think, you know, uh, most of the religious activities and spiritual activities are to get you to a point where you understand that serving others is the goal. Um, so, I mean, and I was kind of just, again, ignore if needed, but just a couple of thoughts here that no religion teaches to kill thousands of people or tens or hundreds of thousands of people. However, you rationalize or justify. Uh, so whatever you do to justify and rationalize, it's still not humane. Um, and then, we all are part of capitalism. And I think the more I think about it is, you know, um, it's like if you institutionalize greed, it doesn't become a virtue. If you are in a culture or if you are in a collective, which rather than come into satsang slash anything that's uplifting, peaceful, and takes you vertically upwards, then it's great. Otherwise, it's all downhill. So, so according to Guru Maharaj, devotion and service are intertwined. Devotion means service. Selfless service is the shortest path to enlightenment or self-realization. So, one day I'll get to it. In Sikh religion, one of the gurus, Amar Das ji, he actually got to, you know, be, part of that mission, part of that lineage, and serve the entire Sikh community, and in some ways the entire human race. Is All he did was service. So service is something that can help you achieve very high states of inner peace and inner happiness. Service get um, can actually um, help you to get favors from anyone. Just serve anyone, and they will be, happy to do things that otherwise would not be possible. So, um, uh, serve everyone with selflessness. You will, uh, if you do that, uh, believe me, life is good. Don't expect any returns, though, any praise or fame, or mentions here and mentions there. That's shouldn't be the target. That shouldn't be the focus. Do it as a duty of a human being. See God or Guru in everyone while you serve them. Swami Vivekanand ji used to say that if you want to please God, serve his children. Instead, what do? We meditate, we pray, we do all these, uh, you know, fabulous self-care activities, but we use clever tactics all the time to collect money from others through proper or improper ways, use institutionalized ways to swindle money from others, put others through various difficulties, force them to do things that are not appropriate just by the virtue of power and money. So such people who are indulging in things that we're just referring to here, you do any amount of meditation, any amount of, the spiritual upliftment, Guru Maharaj says you won't get there, because fundamentally, you're just not putting the right ingredients to get there. People who are selfish, self-centered to a degree that they don't have any good intentions for others, they can't achieve peace. So on the flip side, so you ought to love others as much as you love yourself, love thy neighbor, provide food and comfort to others, serve others, but don't expect that for yourself. Be humble. Don't let pride get in the way. Let selflessness, humility, forgiveness define you, and let that become your second nature. So Guru Maharaj quotes Upanishads that this entire universe is permeated by God. So God is everywhere, permeates the entire universe. We all should see him in everyone and everything. So don't lust for other people's possessions. Don't get attracted or attached to these, material things. And he says that that's the essence of all religions, ideologies, and scriptures. Don't desire others' possessions. Think of everyone as God and devotionally serve them. Don't discriminate. Remove any aspects of us and them, mine and thine. So he talks about a Sufi saint, Khwaja Bahauddin Sahib. He used to refrain from, letting anyone serve him, while so many of his devotees wanted to. So he used to say that if I take service or help or assistance from anyone, now I'm obligated to them. And that is a moral binding and obligation. So why should I take someone's obligation? That will distract me from my own service. I prefer to serve others as much as I can, as I can't see others in suffering. Hence, I try to help others physically, psychologically, quote unquote moral support and spiritually. I didn't, so he used to say that I didn't get what I have through Sufi methods, but through service. Hence, I love service. It gives me such immense pleasure and satisfaction. I do allow folks who are close to me and who believe in service to provide their help and assistance in their service, um, because that helps them to learn how to sacrifice, how to give, um, and it kind of introduces a level of detachment. This detachment then helps their practice and their spiritual ascent. I only ask those who are inclined towards, this vertical ascent and are deserving, um, and who are poised to serve others. So even in that perspective, this is, according to him, this is my service to them. So service essentially is of two kinds: selves, which we all, like, we are becoming very, very self-indulgent society. So self-service and serving others. Serving others is the duty of all human beings, and uh, you know, uh, that's ought to be the real human religion. So if you do something that helps you, your family, your community, that is self-service. When we take upon ourselves some suffering, some loss, but to provide others some happiness, that is service to others. That is actually serving yourself. So because this gives you deep and inner peace and happiness. So today's thought is that, basically, uh, helping others is the best way to help yourself. And, so anyway, on that thought, let's switch gears, and hopefully satsang helps us get to that state where we can serve others, understanding that that's the real way to help ourselves. All right, so sit in a relaxed posture, eyes lightly closed, and then think about this transcendental energy right here, right now, in form of light. That light is entering your heart, distributing throughout your body, and you are becoming the light. You are getting totally immersed in this light. Mind wanders away, which it will. Bring it back to this thought and this thought alone, that this transcendental energy in form of light is right here, and we're connected to it. This light is entering our heart, distributing throughout our body, and we are becoming one with this light. So we'll start with music that helps concentration, and then we go into deep silent meditation, and then we transition out with music again. Let's start now. So happy Saturday, everyone. All right. So Onkar, you want to just quickly talk about the overview, which we missed?
Namaste, Bhaiya.
Namaskar.
Good morning, everyone. Happy. So, overview. Sorry, just give me a minute. Let me. Sorry, sorry about that. This is my first time, so um, I am not prepared. But just give me a minute.
It's okay, Onkar, just do it. We we all we all know what the basics are. Come on.
I know. I just want to use what Eddie has been using. So,
No, it's all right. Just talk about these 6 aspects quickly. Let's go.
yeah. So, yeah, I think I will talk about this thing. Please direct your attention to the screen. You will see the first element is satsang. Satsang is a scientific method whereby we may obtain peace, light, and love in our lives. It requires no physical skill, spiritual accomplishment, or meditation experience to begin its practice. Satsang consists of two words, sat and sang. Sat means positive energy, and sang means to be with or to be in the presence of. Therefore, the word satsang means to be the presence of positive energy. The next element is meditation. Meditation is an important part of satsang. When we meditate, our consciousness is drawn from worldly objects and directed inward to focus on a single thought. In doing so, our minds become calm and our thoughts become pure, leading us to higher states of consciousness such as enlightenment, peace, light, and love. In our orientation, there are two types of satsangs, inner satsang and outer satsang. In an example of outer satsang would be chanting or attending pilgrimages. When we practice outer satsang, we have the potential to change our behavior, but only through the practice of inner satsang can we obtain higher states of consciousness, such as enlightenment, peace, light, and love. This is the type of satsang we have learned today, where we meditated in silence. Group sessions, these weekend group workshops are structured for group participation when we meditate as a group. Our focus is improved and our personal progress along our spiritual path is expedited. We regularly attend By regularly attending these weekend workshops, the benefits of group participations are amplified. Joy and inner happiness. All beings wish to experience joy. Joy is the eternal longing of the soul, but only through the practice of inner satsang can we obtain a joyous state. Each time we practice satsang, our inner happiness gradually increases, ultimately culminating in a state of joy that we experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's it for the orientation session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Onkar. So yeah, for everything thing, there is a first time. Um, and I think you should be prepared to do these overviews. Um, so on that note, let's open it up. Rich, Luz, AC, and everyone else, namaskar, and happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. This is
Hey,
Rich. Hey, um, trying to think of what to say. I think on the earlier subject of service, certainly um, nobody can deny the joy you get from doing those things. I think it's a balance of self-care so that you have enough reserve to help others too, right? Because if you don't bring enough of your healthy self to help others, you may not deliver. So yeah, I think you gotta in a word, in a phrase, pick your spots, pick your timing.
No, no. So Rich, that is where I think a lot of misunderstanding or diversions or distractions happen. See, the thing is that there is this example of a big bowl has a lot of big rocks in there,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of things that we need to take care of are those big rocks. But then you feel that there is nothing left. But then if you put sand in there, lots of sand gets settled in there.
Mhm.
So a lot of things that, it's a mindset, it's a connection or bond that we are missing. So if you don't have the fundamentals, you wouldn't do what you need to do. But once you figure out, like, people think, oh, I mean, and pardon me for saying this, but it's like children are very expensive. And I'm like, what? Really?
Mhm.
The thing is, when you add, to the family, for example, and this is just one example. I'm just saying the perspective matters. Somehow, actually, I was reading something, there used to be a joint family in India. It used to be there till very recently. And now, even in US, there are kids living in the basement because they can't afford this or that. And how much does it take, right?
Mhm.
How much does it take for you to listen to someone with empathy?
It takes energy. I-
Right.
yeah.
And exactly, you hit the nail on the head. So if we, imbibe ourselves with energy,
Mhm.
and if we have that in abundance, then we can do that.
No, I agree that no, I don't think anybody would argue that it's something you shouldn't do. It's a question of how well you do it and the energy
So,
state you
so
have.
actually, but I mean, I'm kind of taking the opportunity to like talk about this, but what you said, like when I look back, and I've thought about this several times. It's like in the East, they say start serving when you have achieved nirvana, right? Because they see that's when you are ready to serve. Um, so what you were saying makes sense. It's just, what do you want to achieve before you start serving is the question.
Yeah, I think there's also yeah, and it depends on who you're serving. It depends on a lot of things, and it's certainly the energy, but it's also the concept that you need to address your own I don't know, your own well-being before you can, purposefully and positively impact somebody else, right? So it's always great to try to reach out, and yes, that's a positive thing to do, and you end up getting joy, and you know, it's a net positive for everybody. I get it, but I think some people, but depending on the kind of personality they have, will neglect themselves, and they give too much, right? So you have to first take care of your own well-being, because you can feel guilty and try to help too many others and neglect yourself. I've seen people do that.
So the question, I think, is exactly that. Like, how much giving is giving too much? When
Yeah.
we actually didn't come with anything and we won't go with anything. It's like- anyway, it's something that we can talk all day, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's something that we really need to think about hard, you know.
Yeah, no, so you've given today, I've taken, and now I'll, pay it forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, this was on the internet, and it comes again and again. It's like somebody just paid, the car behind them. They paid their toll, for example. Right? It's like
Yeah, yeah.
it's as simple as that. Sometimes
I've seen another one, or a coffee shop where people can prepay for the
yeah.
homeless folks that come in, and they get free coffee.
I was in Seattle and I was talking to someone. They said like, "Oh, don't you do some retreats like Vipassana?" And then I was reading something about it, and what they do is like you come in, you don't pay for yourself. You actually pay for somebody who will come after you.
Yeah,
So, it's very
wonderful.
Very interesting. Very well. I'm glad that we are here. I mean, I have had some very interesting weeks lately.
Oh, we heard about the cars.
Yeah, that I don't know why she talked about it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's but it was a interesting context that she put this in. It's like, how much control do we have on our lives? And like, yeah, right.
So true.
So true. So Liz, how are you?
Happy Saturday, everyone. Really appreciating this conversation. And I think I've been given a lot to think about in terms of what you and Rich have been saying, because that it makes sense. I think you have to be able to know, you have to be able to know what you can give without depleting from the inner sources, the inner store that you have of your energy. So just being very discerning as to, and it's not, it doesn't have to do with selfishness, but it has to do with knowing yourself. And maybe that's why they recommend people who reach a nirvana state do it, because they're probably at a better mental state to be able to assess, or maybe they don't have issues.
So let's pause here for a moment.
Okay.
And let's think about this. So if you did not own anything and everything is given to you, right? So live like a guest, live like, you don't own, you're just managing things for somebody else. So, and then you were connected to a source of abundance. So if those things were true, how much would you give?
So that's an easy question because it deals with material items in a way. But what about the question of emotional empathy for others, or providing? I'm thinking of a particular example that I thought was very interesting. Mm-hmm. And I hope it's not getting too deep or taking people's time. But for example, I knew someone who was in she was married and she had children from one person, and the other person had children from another, and that the children of the spouse had been estranged from the spouse for many, many years. And then eventually there became an opportunity for that spouse to bring in the children to the home. Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity to give, actually, on the part of the wife, because
Mm.
this is the husband's children.
Mhm.
And she wanted to with her whole full heart, but doing so did actually place stress on her mental state in a negative manner, to be
Yeah.
honest. So that's what I'm thinking. Those are the material items are easy to give away sometimes,
Mhm.
but it's your empathy sometimes, it's your time even. That can be challenging. That can be the most, if you don't know how, if you don't know what you can give, that's my question, or that's what I'm pondering. That can be
No,
the
absolutely, very, very important point. And lately, the last few weeks, or actually a couple of months now, there was a discussion. We talked about like mental resilience came out as like we, all this we do, this process and a lot of other things is like we are trying to build mental resilience, right? And mental resilience is how we tackle day to day stress, anxiety, uh, things that we worry about, et cetera, et cetera. And the the way um, you know it's so there was something that just I recall, like I was talking to someone about things that sometimes hit you from the left field and you're like so rattled. And so the one of the things that actually, this is one thing that my father talked to someone else about me. And the context was, if you don't build tolerance, you cannot be mentally resilient. You cannot be a spiritual person. So I think what you are hitting here is that, yes, I think we need to have some mental resilience. We need to have tolerance of the level that, and so again, what happens is that, and maybe I'm going off on a tangent here, but who's our role model? Who is teaching us how to be mentally resilient? So unfortunately, the entire media, internet, and is actually it's like fear mongering. It's a lot of other things rather than things that would build mental resilience. So what is happening is, culturally, we have forgotten some of the basic stuff that we ought to do for others. And I think one of the things that I still going to refine this, but at the end, in this, um, when we take upon ourselves some suffering, some loss, imagine that, but to provide others with some happiness, that is service to others. And the so but you make a very good point. I'm still thinking about, when you're trying to help others, but that brings in stress. So that's the suffering, and that's the um, you know the it's like giving up something, and giving up every time. Like if you have something you give up, you have less of it until and unless you have the ability to replenish. So
I'd like to add another angle to it too, though, because
sure.
yeah, there is all that. That's hopefully you're at par and you have enough to give and you walk away from it back to par, a little bit below, and you replenish and get your resilience back. But if I'm in situations a lot with big family that I'm from, when I talk to some people in various situations, if I come to that drained and not empowered, I may do more damage than good. You know what I mean? When they do need a more sympathetic ear, I may not have the patience, right? So I think that's more like picking your spots and making sure you have it before you do. Kind of like Luz is saying too, because I know a lot of people too also that again are, just very giving and kind, and they would give the shirt off their back, at their own detriment, So that's not me, but I do know that, if I don't have my patience, my positive perspective, I may make things worse. That's my point. Right? Because you try to give your best and you try to be as empathetic as you can. If you're not ready for that, you need to go back and meditate, right? So
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's a perspective.
it's not a perspective, it's reality. I mean, it's my reality. So
No.
I've learned it from hard experience.
Actually, no, I totally both these like situations or examples are very illustrative in some ways. And I'm trying to kind of go back to this thought that in say if you look at the service, let's say that happens at the church or in satsang, what I saw was there are so you meditate, but then you also have opportunities to run the kitchen, do things that kind of help others to be able to meditate, right? So you volunteer and you do these things. And so the more spiritual the backdrop, I mean, truly spiritual, the backdrop of that service, the more easier it is. So the whole idea was that, you create this safe place, which then becomes like a platform where service was to be provided. I mean, it happened or not is a separate issue, which I think I have personally experienced. That what happens is that, think about any public service. Public service, true meaning is that it is supposed to serve the public. What happens? Every public service of any level, from the PTO in the school to, the Congress, public service deteriorates because different ulterior motives and different people with different, pushes and pull, they just create this environment where the actual public service becomes secondary. And if you really look at that, what was the cause of all this is self-service. So the problem is that when we look at, serving ourselves, so if you do something that helps you, your family, your community, that is self-service, right? So what happens is that when we become part of cliques, then you have gone away from the spiritual service aspect. So the whole idea was that a temple or a church or a satsang was the platform where everybody comes together to help each other. How many of them are able to achieve that? Because of the reasons which we're talking about here. Right? So the intent always, for all religions, for all spiritual congregations and other, public service congregations is, oh, we want to come together to help. Who? Right? Help yourself. And yourself is not just you, then it's your family, then it's your community. When you are in those closed, horizons, it just takes a different shape. So it's a very intriguing concept. So very early on, and I'm just now that I think I'll take a few more minutes here. So one of my very, very early experiences when my father passed away, it was believe it or not, it was like a life-changing experience. And part of that was like so there was a 3-day retreat in my hometown in Jaipur. And so he used to go and stay where the volunteers would be, preparing food and do all that. So instead of sleeping at home, he would actually go there and sleep, in the location where all the volunteers are serving. So I said, like, okay, why would he do that? You know, so I just thought I will also go and, um, you know, just do the same. And I went there. So all through the night, I mean, I think it was like till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, people were preparing food for those who would travel after these thousands of people, once the whole 3-day thing was over, they would be traveling. So they would make some food packets for them, for the journey. And so like late at night, early AM hours. So I went there, I found people are like just, so devotional songs are playing, and a lot of these, people are just preparing food. And what I found was that it was an environment where greed, lust, and anger, and all these things were outside of that environment. They could not enter that environment because there was service being done in quote unquote the right way. The problem is that, so I felt like, okay, so I should ask everyone to serve. And I initiated lots of things after that through the years, where I would ask people to just volunteer to serve, because I felt that that environment that I saw that night was so cleansing, pure, where the aspects of lust, anger, greed, and all that were like you are in that environment, you are untouched by these things. And what I found was that general service very quickly deteriorates into quote unquote a self-serve mode, and a lot of other things just seep in and distract the service. So the purity, I think what I was thinking about was, there is this aspect of selfless service, which, uh, you know, is very, very hard to get to because of all these other things, practical things that you need to think about. But once somehow through mental resilience and physical capability or whatever else spiritual capabilities, you get to that point where you can make selfless service available for others, then that is when this service transcends materialism or even like suffering, mental or otherwise. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but I
It's a very interesting point, actually.
No, you make sense, I think. You know what, if you don't mind me interjecting, I feel like the way I can kind of pull this all together with the concerns that were raised is in a way like someone who has no material items to give, right? They can't physically give anything. So they'll give in a different way, right? Like however it is, like empathy.
Yeah.
Similarly, it seems more complicated because when we're not talking about physical things, when we're talking more about charity or empathy, it's not solid, but it's the same concept. Like if you don't have it right now, you can't give what you don't have. So you look to see what you can give, I suppose. I suppose that's the only way we can actually conceptualize the two. Like in one, it's very concrete. You don't have the money. But in another one, it doesn't seem concrete because it seems like we all have endless stores of empathy or endless stores of the ability to give in non-material ways. But there's more thought there. We need to think about, and that's where I agree with Rich. Like you have to kind of assess, like, do I have this? It's the same as like someone who, go ahead.
So I fundamentally disagree, right? And with all due respect, right? Thought process is absolutely correct. But think about this. So there is this, actually, there are tons of, look at all the nonprofits that exist around us, right? I was thinking about this. There is like for terminally ill children, they have this dream wish I'm forgetting the exact term.
Make a wish. I think it's
Make-A-Wish Foundation, right? Now, that person who started it had this much, but now they have that much to give. How? Right? So what happened was that this person went into this state where they thought this was so important because of whatever happened in their family or whatever happened, and a lot of times it's a very, very, materially or worldly speaking, it was tragic incident that made them to realize that they need to do something so deep and so much that they now feel that everybody who deserves, so in this particular case, it's the terminally ill children, but in other cases, there are lots of different, so people get into the state where they say, it's not just what I have, it is all of you, quote unquote, like the public, can help in this achieving this state, goal, right? Spiritual and very, Luz,
I think you're talking about a mindset and an institutional versus like an individual one-on-one, you know what I mean? And because ideally you have all the energy in the world and you can, yeah.
So there, I think about institutional versus aren't you part of this human consciousness? It's like,
yes, and we need to let Paula speak. She wants to say something.
Sure.
So last weekend, in honor of Memorial Day, I have partnered with the local VA and the supported housing for homeless veterans, and I asked my company to participate in sponsoring a barbecue for the veterans. And I've done privately 2 other events with these men, and the advocate who I deal with always says, it's not about giving things. I want people who come to sit down and break bread with the veterans. And so we had a barbecue on Saturday last weekend, and it surpassed anything I could have ever imagined. Yeah. The outpouring of food and donations and money that went towards the barbecue was one thing, but then there was a lot of people from my company who signed up to cook and and talk to the veterans. And I was so caught up in making sure that food was being served and everybody was in a good place. And several times throughout the event, I turned around and I looked at what was going on. On the other two events we had had, very few of the guys came out to participate. There were so many veterans that came out of their units to sit and eat. And there were people who brought their children there to volunteer, and the children were sitting with the veterans talking. And I turned around at 3 times during the event and I looked at what was going on and I said,
Wow.
this makes my heart so happy and so full.
Absolutely.
And I went to like people who were volunteering and I said, take a minute and just turn around and look at what's going on here. And I have to tell you, it lasted for like 4 days. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it other than not only did I feel peace, light, and love, but I was on this like high of having helped these people, not just monetarily, not just feeding them. I mean, they have food, but it was the camaraderie and watching, you know, men who served in Korea and Vietnam who had been on the streets for 20 years, talking to other vets from my company and talking to the children. That was just so uplifting that it was indescribable. You know, when I went back to work on Tuesday and people asked, how was it? It was hard to describe to people the feeling that you get from doing that.
Wow. That's the essence of today's session. It's it's
Yes,
I
it was.
I just cannot, you know, like sometimes I think what resonates with me is like, how do you describe it, right? It's very hard. It's very hard to put these things in words. Wow. So on that note, I think we all, you know, I think, but it is, you know, the discussion part sometimes is extremely important because we all have these thoughts that need to be sorted, and the best time to sort yourself is after meditation. Interestingly. So thank you, everyone. It's like, yeah, this was phenomenal.
I just want to say one more thing to Luz's point.
Yeah.
I know that you have all seen that Jeffrey attends these sessions twice a week, and my son Jeffrey is autistic. And I totally get what Luz is saying about self-care and what do you do when you have, like, you're depleted of your own source of energy. And Jeffrey is 31 years old and he's at work right now, so I can talk freely, but I totally understand even what Rich said when you don't have any more to give. And there are days, and we've been at this journey for 29 years now, and there are many days where we have very little left to give, but still you find it within yourself and even within the autism community to constantly be giving back, even though there are days where it's very difficult for us to even get through the day. And I don't know if part of that is our Judaism and the teaching of the rabbis of how important giving back is, but you always have to feel like you have something else to give. And it's not even financially or materially, it's what you give from your heart to other people who are struggling much in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just say one last thing. So my son too is 32, high functioning, but yeah, and there are days I don't have the right frame of mind, you know, and I have a mentally ill brother who I talk to daily. And if I'm not in the right frame of mind, I can't do it. So that's kind of what I was referring to. And certainly institutionally, that is my plan when I retire, to give back and that specific area and autism and other things. So, but like I said, yeah. So I think we're distinguishing between institutional and just the day in, day out kind of, how can you do a kind thing, pay it forward, be
Right.
an ear for somebody, you know, and having that energy,
Exactly.
you know,
Yep. Hmm.
so.
Yeah, I feel that we and even personally I have situations that I'm dealing with, but I think as Paula mentioned, I think this 4 days of, it's just sometimes the intent and this, the um if we are selfless and humble and giving in the intent itself, uh, it just helps to create that environment where things happen which are quote unquote it's enabling the service.
Mhm.
So service enabling, the creating a platform which has those elements of you know uh, putting some others before you, in the sense that those veterans are being served in ways that are beyond you. I mean, it's people are volunteering. You create that environment. You are creating that positive, so it's that enabling intent, I would say. That's the key. Wow. So much to think about and so much to be thankful for. And yeah, sometimes, it's gratitude for just having the ability to be in this positive environment. And as, so light, love, and peace be with you. And on that note, let's be here again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Vijay. Namaskar.
Thank you, Omkar, Himanshu, Purva,